that we should be live, not only on Facebook, but on YouTube as well. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm so excited to be here with you all again today on ColumbusBlack.com's Countdown to Election Day. Today is a special day because of the fact that it's debate night, right? So this is the debate night edition of the Countdown to Election Day 2024. We are at 55 days till Election Day. It's only 55 days left. So you got to get in gear, get ready. If you're not ready, if you're not registered, all that other good stuff, well, I'm getting ahead of myself. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes too. You want to make sure you get ready, okay? And if you're not ready for tonight, you need to lock in. This is a very, very big night. As you all have known and have been hearing, this is the most consequential election day of our time. So we're going to do that. So give me 1 second. I'm getting a little feedback right here. This could be from the Facebook page or it could be from the YouTube page. We're going to double check that real quick. There we go. Yep, it was the YouTube page. I was hearing a little feedback. So listen, y'all, very excited. For those that don't know, let me make sure y'all know ColumbusBlack.com has been around for 19 years now. We're an omni-channel platform connecting the Black community and allies through commerce and to culture. So for those that are looking for things to do, stay connected in our city, want to be abreast of what's actually happening in Central Ohio, our platform is the way to go. We do this through our website, through our email blast, our text blast, social media, live, and just like tonight, virtual events. And we are excited to have a platform where we can have amazing discussions like this one tonight. We have a very special guest with us. And I believe that her name is the coolest and the smoothest ever. We have Dr. Wendy Smooth with us tonight, and I'm super excited for her to introduce herself in a moment so that those that don't know her, you will get a chance to know who she is and why she is on this show tonight. Now, what is this whole countdown to Election Day thing about, right? Well, we decided it is time for us to make sure that the platform is used the right way. And we're focused on the who, the what, the why, when, and where, right? As well as the how, no cap. And for those that don't know what no cap means, there's no lies, it's the truth, right? And we've been trying to make sure in this day and time of disinformation and misinformation that we can share some good factual information, but also be able to share and direct people to the right paths and where to go to get information that you may need. Now, the last thing I'm going to ask y'all to do before we get started with this amazing introduction is that if you hear something that resonates with you, share something, all right? So y'all know what I mean. Throughout the show, you're going to see me go like this. That means that she is dropping gems. Anytime gems are dropped on the show, I'm going to do these for the gem drops, right? And you're going to receive some of those gem drops as well. I'm going to ask that you hit the share button. That means someone else should hear exactly what you heard. So with that, I'm going to turn it over because it is game time and it's show time as we get rocking and rolling. Dr. Smooth, thank you so much for joining us today on the show as we get ready for not just debate night, but for Election Day, which is 55 days away. Thank you so much for joining us. Would you mind introducing yourself to our listening audience and our viewers so they get to know who Dr. Smooth is and why we wanted to have you on the show?
Well, thank you so much, Kevin, for having me. Thank you for all you're doing for the community to educate us, to make sure that we are standing on business. You do so much in the community to help us to think about our economic plight as a community. A part of what you do there in terms of helping us with economic determination and having some fun, because I follow you. And so you point us out how we connect and can connect and have some good community and deep community connections. But at the same time, we know the importance of economic empowerment for our community and the strong link we have to understand between economic empowerment and political empowerment. They have always gone hand in hand. The reason why Ida B. Wells Barnett talks so much about protecting Black business owners from lynching was because we knew that in order for us to be able to protect our communities, we had to have access to the ballot box, and we had to have businesses in our communities that could benefit from policies that are passed by our government or extensions of benefits to our community and to others. And so voting and civic engagement has always gone hand in hand with economic determination. And that's how we move our community forward. So I get to talk about these issues quite a bit from my at the Ohio State University. I-O. So I am a professor of women's gender and sexuality studies and also political science in the John Glenn School of Public Policy. For years, more than I can count, I've been at the Ohio State University now I'm celebrating my 20th year at the university.
Congratulations.
I know they took me right out of the crib and decided I could teach.
Right. 20 years. How'd that happen?
Barely out of diapers, right?
Right.
So, but have had just a wonderful opportunity to talk to young people about understanding the history of elections, understanding the consequences of elections, helping us to understand from the work that I delve deeply into the roles that women of color have played in making our democracy work. And so happy to talk about some of those issues as we go on through the night. So I'm happy.
Excellent. Thank you for breaking that down. So now people should understand why we had to have you on the show. This is what you do, right? Yeah. So I think we may pivot a little bit on some of the normal questions that we ask because of what you do. You teach this stuff, right? And so I think the discussion may adjust a little bit because I'm interested in how you navigate through that and help to educate our younger adults, obviously around civic engagement and things like that, right? This is pretty cool. So, as you all know, we like to have fun on the show. So you just broke it down for us, but when you heard that we wanted to have you on the show, what excited you about the fact that we were doing this countdown to Election Day piece and that you would have a chance to vocalize some of your thoughts and perspectives as well?
Absolutely. So one of the things is I got word from one of the dopest civic engaged people I know, who I happen to share some wonderful affiliations with. I'm here in my personal capacity. I have to underline that.
Right.
Right. Karen Carey, my soror, Karen Carey was on the show, and she's like, and I serve with her proudly on our social justice action committee. So she says, "You've got to do this show. You've got to have a conversation. This is where the community needs to hear." And I tuned in and was, like I said, I was very struck by how you were making the connections. So I don't do all invites. I don't take all invites. And so this is what I had to do.
I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. And shout out to Karen, right? Because it's almost like the each one teach one mentality, and we got to keep helping and spreading the word and sharing. And she immediately was like, "Hey, you need to talk to Dr. Smooth," right? And so we were super excited to get you on the line. And obviously she was dropping some serious gems when she came on the show, and it was like, okay, game on, right? So really excited to have you here. So listen, if we get right to it, obviously one of the things that we talk about is obviously local elections. We talk about statewide elections, and we talk about at the national level, which this year is massive at every one of those levels. And we've had everyone from community activists to politicians to judges on the line as well, right? And so super excited to have you here, especially on the academia side of things as well. So we realize that this election, and we hear it all the time on the news and from our conversations, it's the most consequential, right? Just to open up the door, would you mind sharing your perspectives on why this election itself is so important, so critical, and as they say, so consequential to us in your own way?
That's great. So, when we say that a lot, right? So I can think about all of the various times that I've shared that with communities. This is the most consequential election of our time. And I
Hmm.
stand on that because I really think that every election, and I mean
Yeah.
every election. So I mean when we are invited to go to the polls to vote for dog catcher, and we
Hmm.
have a chance to make that selection, I take that very seriously. And so every election has consequences. We may not really think about what those consequences are at the time that
Hmm.
we're going to the polls, but you best believe 6 months in, after we've cast that ballot, we're going to feel the
Yeah.
effects of that election. So my message for people is to show up and make sure that your voice is counted among those who are making the decisions for our community, right?
Hmm.
we've got to show up because every election has consequences. When we see that
Right.
AEP bill go up, an election had a consequence. When where our trash isn't
Speak.
picked up the way that we think it should be picked up, the elections have consequences. Um, and we really
Mm.
have to start, paying close attention to those down ticket races, right? Where people don't think that those
Hmm.
those elections are a big deal, right? But those are the ones that hit
Right.
to home. We're in a
Yeah.
presidential year, so of course there's a lot of
Hmm.
energy around the presidential election. But when we look down
Hmm.
ballot, this go round, we need to go all the way down the ballot and be
Yeah.
consistent in our education all the way down the ballot because we know that there's also the Ohio Supreme Court races are going on. And when we say
That's
elections
right.
have consequences, look no further. Look no further.
Right.
The Ohio Supreme
Yeah.
Court. So, how we
Yeah.
interpret the laws of the state often land in the hands of our judicial system. And it is the Ohio Supreme
Mm.
Court that often has an opportunity to do the additional interpretations of legislation that has been passed. And we really want to
Yeah.
have thoughtful justices in those roles.
We definitely do. And listen, before we continue, I forgot to, even though this is being recorded and we're live streaming, y'all, I have to hit the internal record button. So I'm gonna do that real quick. There we go. All right. So, and then obviously this is available for everybody. So if you're joining us, that's a great pause for me. If you're joining us on Facebook or on YouTube, once again, a reminder is to make sure that you hit the share button, spread the word with your family and your friends, because we're talking about things that are relevant. And the goal is to simplify what is really going on so that we understand the importance of being engaged from a civic standpoint. Okay. We just want people to know what's going on and go vote. That's all we're trying to do here, right? So thank you for breaking that down. Now, for those that may have missed the last two shows, we had the opportunity to have Judge Terry Jameson, the Honorable Judge Terry Jameson, on the show. On the first one, she dropped so many gems, she decided I'm coming back because I have some more to share. And she was back on again last week and dropped even more gems. So the fact that you just talked about the judicial component and how important that is, especially in the state of Ohio with the Supreme Court justices, that is so important, y'all. So please do your diligence, do your research, understand who is running, especially on the judge's side, and that way you know who to vote for. Okay, it's so very important. So thank you for bringing that up. Now I want to take I want to jump right on in because of your title and some of the things that you do. Right, this year, for women especially, and men need to support, and we're supporting. But for women especially, there's some things that are so serious in regards to your rights as women that's on the ballot. And so, would you like to share thoughts, perspectives? Because what I want to accomplish here, so that you know, is there are people who still don't understand the significance of what is actually happening or what has already happened. And part of my goal is that we can simplify that through education and factual information. So, with your perspective, all the knowledge and things that you know and that you do, would you mind explaining, especially around reproductive rights for women and control of their bodies, what is actually on the ballot and how serious this is?
Thank you so much for that question. And it also means the world that a brother is asking this question very directly. And it's important for us to see this as, yes, the right to bodily autonomy is a fundamental core human value right. So that when we start to talk about those core central human value rights, that's about the definition of your personhood. You know, one of the stories that we don't really haven't told very widely is the, you know, what we call the real story of Rosa Parks. So we know Rosa Parks was a civil rights activist. We all have been taught that amazing story of her organizing in Montgomery. Sometimes we get it a little skewed, saying she was a little old lady seamstress who, you know, didn't feel like getting up because she was so old and tired. Rosa Parks was not that old of a woman, number one. And number two, she had an amazing history of being a civil rights organizer. And one of the things that Rosa Parks did in her civil rights organizing is that she went to small rural communities, collecting the stories of African-American women who had been raped in their communities. And then she took those stories back to the NAACP in order for there to be further investigation of those rapes. Okay. What she was contesting in that early civil rights work that she was doing is the claim of Black women's bodily autonomy. So this has a long history. When we ask about claims of bodily integrity and our abilities to make, have dominion over our own bodies and to decide what we want to do with them, that is a part of our civil rights history. So I want to fast forward to what that means for this election cycle. One of the things that we will be voting on in this election cycle, some states will be voting very directly about ballot measures that protect women's rights to reproductive health care. But the broader issue is who will make the appointments on courts that will adjudicate, that will review cases, that will review ballot initiatives that have been passed by voters, such as issue 1 here in Ohio. We will be voting on whether or not those issues have really stuck and whether or not women actually have the right to make claims for their own bodily autonomy. Now, one of the things I want to stress, because it's not only about abortion, and that is one of the key pillars that we have to be educated on and to understand. When we talk about reproductive rights and women's reproductive health, we're talking about everything from abortions, miscarriage, complications, D&Cs that people are going through that may not have been complete, and the access and whether or not a doctor can make the decision on whether or not your health is being compromised by a pregnancy that you may desire to have or not to have. You have the opportunity to make the right to have that decision be your own decision in consultation with your doctors. That's what's on the ballot. Also, we have families that are working hard to save money to be able to have families, and turning to treatments like IVF are one of the things that can enable some families to be able to extend the size of their families. IVF is also on the ballot. It's one of those issues that people want to talk about, but not want to talk about because they want to make it all murky and unclear. Once we open up a road where we are questioning whether women have the right to make these decisions, it's only a matter of time before we're back to what we call the Comstock laws, where you couldn't get birth control, access to birth control, or birth control couldn't be mailed from one state to the other. And I'm not like a fear monger, right? But this is really about the continuum that we're on now that we're in a post Roe versus Wade world.
Right. So now the last part you just said of what the possibilities are, what I'm finding, or what I've seen to be observing, is that some people feel like this stuff is far-fetched, right? They feel like, no, this couldn't happen. No, this would never happen because of what life has been like the last 20, 30, 40 years, right? We know beyond that, it was a whole lot different. It wasn't that long ago where those rights and those decisions by women couldn't be made on their own. But some people obviously feel like that's kind of far fetched. When it comes to getting people to go and actually vote, right? As we switch gears, because now it's like, okay, you're getting the information, but the big thing is to actually go vote. Are there any things that you have seen or you have heard that may be successful to help make sure people actually get to the ballot box to actually cast their vote? Any perspectives of wisdom you want to share around that? Because that's the big part, is getting there.
Absolutely. Number one thing, everybody needs a plan. And then you need a backup plan. Everybody has needs to have a voting plan, and you need to have a backup just in case plan. So, you know, we here in Ohio have worked really hard to protect early voting, right? We've been through many of levels of litigation in regards to early voting, and it is by no surprise that the Sunday prior to the election has been a contested space for early voting. Why? Because our community has a history, built a history of organizing, the soul to the polls work. All of that has been noticed, right? So we need to have a plan. You need to know where you're voting, when you're voting. And that plan actually needs to start with checking your registration status. And I don't care if you've been voting for years. I don't care if I always vote, right? You would be shocked, right? And let me say this, all voter purging is not sinister, right? So let me just say that. That's a regular,
good point.
That's a regular part of how we keep our voter system healthy, right? But it's also no surprise that there are people who get caught up and are purged when they shouldn't be purged. So we still have a responsibility as a voter to assure that we are registered to vote. So I encourage everyone to go to the Board of Elections website. Just put your address and name in. That's all you have to do. Some of us have moved. And, you know, this is one of the things you talk about from the women's perspective, right? A woman will go and get married, change their name just as proudly in some spaces, but not complete the process overall. You got ID that says you're one person. You got a bill that says you're somebody else in terms of your last name. And women across the board have a higher level of disenfranchisement because of that simple voter identification piece. Make sure you got your ID straight. Make sure you have your registration checked. And when people, and those of us who are out there in the community talking to people about voting, people are quick to tell you, because it's a pride thing, right? People are quick to tell you, oh, I registered to vote. I vote all the time. And then I will ask them, have you checked it lately? So that's a good follow-up question to ask folks, have you checked it lately? And tell people where to go to check it. So at the Board of Elections website, you can easily check. Got to have a plan, got to have a backup plan. I really, really encourage people who, I'm ceremonial. As a little kid, my parents took me to the polls, right? I have two children. I want to make sure they go to the polls. I like that ritual. So we all go together. But I have my day broken up in such a way that I know the times when I can take them, right? If we blow that time, then I got to have some backup times in my day.
That's right.
Right. You got to know the hours of your polling place. Check the location of your polling place, right?
It's changed. It's changed.
Time, right?
Yeah.
If you're an early voter, vote by mail. Make sure you sign that ballot. Make sure you date it. Look at your signature. This is one of the big pieces. I don't know about you, Kevin. As I have grown a little more seasoned in time.
More seasoned, yes.
Seasoned in time. Not that wonderful young whippersnapper straight out of diapers into the classroom at The Ohio State University. My signature has changed a bit over time. And in particular, we want to make sure our elders do not fall victim to signature checks, Make sure that the
Right.
signature that you currently use matches the
Mm-hmm.
signature that you first signed your voter registration with, because that's one of those
Mm.
spaces we can get caught up. So
Oh,
you gotta prep for voting, right? You gotta get that muscle
yep.
right. You gotta make sure all the things are in check when you revving up
Mm.
to cast the ballot. Make sure you've got all of the
Yeah.
things in place.
You know what? I love the way you broke that down because you talked about the plan A. You gave us a real life scenario of why you need to have a plan B because real life happens, right? And we run out of time or something gets in the way. We know that. So the reality is, and that's the other reason why you don't wait to the last minute. Don't wait till the last minute, right? And have your plan A, your plan B, and some of us need a C and D, by the way, too, because of our lives, right?
Right.
Um, but then the other piece is a strategy to prep and get ready, right? So the whole thing of don't wait until October 8th and say, I'm going to check my registration. It's too late.
Yes.
It's too late, y'all. Guess what? We have less than 30 days for you to validate that you're registered to vote and make sure you are. Think about that. Less than 30 days. You need to do that part. And then we move into the next phase. Don't wait, right? So prep, get ready, make sure you got everything dotted I's, the T's crossed and the I's dotted. Thank you for breaking that down.
And you know what,
So
Kevin, what I would say
yeah,
too,
go ahead.
we got to get
Yeah.
we got to think about ourselves and our voting plans as individuals, right? But what
Mm-hmm.
about community, right? How do we do this as
That's
a,
right.
right? So we're big proponents, and several of the national organizations are pushing this because one of the
Yep.
things we know about sisters, right? Black
Mm-hmm.
women show up to the polls. They show up
Yes.
as sorority members. We show up with our church members. We show up with the
Mm-hmm.
old lady down the street who needs a ride. We show up with
Yep.
everyone, which is why Black women being organized is so
Mm.
critically important. This election cycle has been
Yeah.
for eons, right? But I
Yeah.
want to put it out there. Hype this thing up, right? Don't go by
Let's
yourself.
go.
Take somebody with
Let's
you,
go.
a few people with you. Go out to lunch after. Go have a, if you partake in the spirits, go have a
Oh
drink
yeah.
after. Head up on Morse Road. Get some good, wonderful international fare of foods that all
Mm-hmm.
up and down Morse Road. And make it an afternoon. Treat yourself
How about that?
right. What if we start talking about treating ourselves to the vote, right? And
How,
make it a real nice
oh,
experience.
how about that? How about that? Making it more than just a vote. I love that. You
There
brought
you
the
go.
whole social piece to it. See, that's what we're talking about. We got to think outside the box. And that's also a way to get other people out that normally might not go out and vote, right?
That is so true. That is so true. It's been real interesting
I
when we look
love it.
at cities and states across the country. One of the things they got so mad about in Georgia, Georgia's
Mm-hmm.
had a whole lot
Oh,
of
yeah.
ins and outs
Lot.
with election laws or what have you. But I like to think
Facts.
about the ways in which our community, we were turning up the polling place,
Oh, yeah.
food trucks, DJs, and then you start getting these laws in place to say you couldn't give people
Right.
water in line. Like, what kind
Right.
of craziness? And so one of the things
Yeah.
I love to point out is like that's because we were turning it up. Food trucks were coming
Yep.
all over the state of Georgia, all across the South, to make sure
Mm-hmm.
that Georgia voters who were in long lines had
That's
really good
right.
food to eat while they were out at the line.
That's
They had
right.
good music, right? So folks who DJ, go out on Morse Road, right?
Yep.
Bring people some entertainment. Um,
Have a good time.
yeah, some upliftment. Voting is not this burden
Yeah.
thing. This is a good thing. This is our
It is.
democracy at work.
It is. It is. That's right. And fulfilling our civic duty and rights and enjoying it, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's awesome. Awesome. I love it. I love it. See, this is what we're talking about, y'all. This is why we have Dr. Smooth on, so y'all can get some of this energy, some of this positivity, while getting this knowledge at the exact same time, breaking it down. So as we keep going, let's talk about policies, right? With this being Columbus Black, it's very important that we also discuss what are some of the key policies that really, right? When you think about the Black community, and we get it, right? As they say, we're not a monolith. Everybody is different, have their different perspectives. But when you say, hey, what is really important for us, especially in an election like this, at any level, are there some key policies that stand out to you that we should break down for our audience so when they hear this, they're like, oh, I didn't think about it that way.
Oh, that's great. So we've definitely talked
Yeah,
about some of the issues around reproductive rights. You know, the
yeah.
economy is on everybody's mind,
Mm,
right? But I
yep.
want us to really, in our community, to really be thinking about, it's one thing
Mm-hmm.
to hear this little catchphrase, oh, it's the economy. You know, we always say it's the economy,
Mm-hmm.
stupid, all that, whatever. But we got to really be thinking about how we're asking this question, right? And what we mean
Mm-hmm.
by it's the economy. You know, we've got to think about, look at the jobs numbers. We've got to be thinking about
Mm-hmm. Yep.
salary increases that people have experienced
Yep.
um,
It's going
over
up.
this last year. It's been going up, right? Um,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so we also have to be good students of understanding the cycles of inflation, right? We can't just hear
Mm.
the word inflation is higher and higher and higher, but really understanding the cycles of inflation and how that's impacting us. Because salaries have
Yep.
gone, and I'm not an economist, let me put that disclosure out there so nobody come and get
Right.
on my
Disclaimer.
economic
Disclaimer.
monetary policy. But we do want to pay attention to the ways in which salaries are going up, and then look at what
Mm-hmm.
is the source of the increase in prices at the grocery store.
Oh.
Why?
Uh-oh.
Why is that happening? Because from my
Mm.
read, the economic
Mm.
indicators do not point to these higher increases that we're seeing in stores being driven solely by market, right? So we've got to
Mm.
ask some different kinds of questions that if it's not solely by the kind of natural forces of the market, what is it?
Mm-hmm. What's driving it?
What's driving this,
Gem drops.
right? So is it, you know, the need for additional profit? And if it's the need for
Mm.
additional profit, are we laying the problem at the feet of the right problem solvers? Right? So you can't lay blame in places where it doesn't fit, right? So the economy is
Yep.
definitely a core issue. We all are thinking about it, right? But I know my gas
Yeah.
prices were a little bit lower this summer, right? My gas
Yep.
price is a little bit lower.
Yep. Definitely.
I'll
It's
fill up the
going
tank
down.
the other day. It's been going down. So we got to pay attention to
Yeah.
that. Look at your actual reality versus what people are telling us is our reality,
Mm.
right? Smart consumers of the news, right? Understanding who does
Mm-hmm.
what. And if I can't say this enough, because we're in a presidential election cycle, presidents
Yep.
do not bring out your civics book. I know we don't teach
Mm-hmm.
civics in K through 12 like we used to, right? When we were coming along,
Right.
right? And so
Yep.
sometimes we've missed the stories of who does what. So let me
Mm.
just say, presidents set agendas. Presidents do not pass laws. Congress passes the law. Okay? And the courts review laws. So those are three branches
Okay.
of
Break it
government.
down.
Yeah, those are three
Yep.
branches of government. So we want to be smart and pay attention when we make claims that the president has or has not done XYZ. So presidents set
Mm-hmm.
agenda, they set the context, they condition the tone for the country, but it's Congress who has to act. That's really important, especially when we get into these issues in terms of talking about the border and talking about immigration policy. Presidents can do some things via executive order, but it is really reliant upon Congress to act. Similarly, I can
Mm-hmm.
go on and on and on with examples because we also can think about all of the various ways that voter disenfranchisement has been on the increase since we knocked down key provisions of the Voting Rights Act.
The
We've been
what?
operating outside of key provisions of the Voting Rights Act. The Supreme Court knocked down
Mm.
key components of the Voting Rights Act. Now, what they said in the ruling was that it was up to Congress. Congress could review, and it's up to Congress to make the laws, right? So we've been trying to pass, Congress has been trying to pass for quite some time the John Lewis voting rights legislation. It's Congress that does that. So we have to pay attention to who we're electing into Congress, because Congress makes the laws. Now, that doesn't take the heat off the president for the agendas that they set. So I'm not saying presidents, not saying that presidents are not consequential, but presidents do not make the laws. They set the agenda in the context for which Congress passes the laws. So all elections are important.
Yes, indeed. So does that have anything? You were trying to connect the dots here. You were talking about the down ballot, right? And you was talking about not just the presidential. So in layman's terms, what does that mean? If we're not talking about the president, right, and their agenda, we're talking about Congress. Now, who are you talking about? Who, when we go to vote, who should we be looking at as well?
Oh, thank you so much for helping me break it all the way down, right? So we got to look at the U.S. House races. U.S. House members are on the ballot. We got to look at Senate races. And we know here in Ohio, we have one of the most costly, high attention Senate races that can determine the balance of the U.S. Senate in terms of who has control, whether Democrats or Republicans have control. And no matter which side of the aisle you sit on, that is a race to pay close attention to. And do your fact checking, right? There's some really great fact checking organizations that are watching the Sherrod Brown Marino race very closely and calling out when the ads are disseminating false information. We have to, and this is crazy because it's so much riding on all of our elections, right? But it's so much riding on us as voters to be informed, right? Because so much false and disinformation is out there. Best question you can ever ask somebody who's telling you something about, this candidate did this and they passed this when they were in this office or what have you. It's like, how do you know that? Where'd you get that from? Show me. Right? Be careful what we click.
Be very, very careful. Very careful. And there's so much misinformation, disinformation. I got a question for you. This is, I know you're here on a personal side and may not be able to share, certain things here, but as it relates to teaching and educating our students, I'm curious, right? In this day and time with so much on the line tied to their future, but they're seeing in the present, right? Like there's things that are changing right now and that's impacting how they can even be taught or their siblings can be taught and all of those things. How do you navigate in your type of role or capacity to help educate them on the facts and the relevance and to make sure that they understand and know as well? I'm curious of what that looks like in the academia.
Oh, absolutely. So, we have a lot of good conversations. We as educators, and this is like the misnomer, the thing that people get wrong about what happens in college classrooms. And there's a lot of hype about, college professors teaching woke curriculums and all of that, right? And not giving space for all voices and all of the things. And we've got legislation here in Ohio that is attempting to kind of, stomp out this idea that only singular perspectives are being pushed or taught in classrooms. Good professors. Can't speak for all. Good professors are teaching and investing in your critical thinking skills, right? That's one of the things we really lean into, because it's one thing for me to teach you all of these little historical tidbits of elections or what. I've got to teach my students how to think, how to rationalize, how to take facts and apply them to various cases, right? So I want you to know about literally all sides on an issue. And in fact, my favorite thing is when a student thinks they have it all figured out about their side of the issue, I like them to be able to argue the other side. Because when you're able to do that, you really end up knowing your issue, right?
Love it.
We want people to be well-read, right?
Yeah.
Ask lots of questions. Like kick the
Okay.
tires. Like,
Yep.
you find an
Yep.
argument, you
Kick
need to
them
kick the
tires.
tires of the argument the same way you would purchase a car, right? Kick the tires on
Yep.
the argument. See if it makes sense, if the logic flows. The other thing is, can you explain this to your grandmother? Can you explain this to your uncle,
Mm.
right? Because it's one thing for you to have a whole lot of knowledge, but if you can't explain it and
Yeah.
take it out into the community and help people understand it, then what is it really for, right?
There
So in
you
our
go.
classes,
Breaking it down.
yeah, in our classes, we're trying to get students prepared for the real world. Ohio State's
Yeah.
motto is education for citizenship. So we're
Mm.
talking and educating students about voting. We're educating students about how to vote, thinking about some of the histories of voting. We've got lots
Yeah.
of classes that invite us in to think about um, deliberation and listening to the other side. We don't
Mm.
have a lot of good examples right now because we've become so
Mm.
polarized as a nation.
Yeah.
The best thing to do is to
Facts.
be able to discuss and then come to your conclusions, right, on your own,
Yep.
based on getting high quality information. And the classroom should provide you all those opportunities. For our young people, there's a lot at stake, right? When you're entering
Yeah.
into and finding your political voice, you can sometimes get caught on a singular issue, and that becomes the issue that's the only thing you vote on. That's the only thing you can see. But I
Mm.
really encourage our
Mm-hmm.
young people to be widely read across and beyond that singular issue that has brought them into politics or got them politically activated and motivated. Um,
Yeah.
Sometimes that singular issue doesn't really drive, it's complicated and won't drive all of your political decisions. Like you can't just be a reproductive rights voter, singular, and you can't think about
Mm.
anything else. You
Right.
can't be
Right.
a Gaza voter and you're only thinking about that one issue because our issues are intertwined. They touch us in different ways.
Yeah. Facts. 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 All right, y'all. Listen, she is breaking it down and simplifying it. And that's real talk. And I love that because that's what's important. We have to be able to think on our own. That's why, the disinformation and misinformation is such a big deal. Nobody, I won't say nobody, a lot of people aren't thinking on their own. They're not going to do their own research. They see it, they just click on it, they see the headline, right? It's clickbait. That's what they believe, right? And it's not the facts. And the thing about it is, y'all, we have the technology to get the facts in seconds. You can literally go get the facts in seconds, but we have to take the time to do it. So thank you for breaking that down. I think that's really important that our youth are educated in that way to be critical thinkers themselves. So listen, we are down to our finals. I got two questions left for you, and they're both very easy. The
Okay.
first one is, in preparation for the show, people are always like, when I get on the show, I'm going to talk about this and this and this. And then they forget and they get off the show and they got forgot, right? So is there anything that you wanted to make sure you convey to our listening audience tonight, right? When you said, hey, I have the platform, I want to share some things. I'm opening it up to you for anything we may have missed that you wanted to share while you're here, because some people will watch this tonight, some people tomorrow, some people next week. But before the election, if they hear it from you, what is it that you would want to share?
All right, so I can't say it enough. I said it already, but I'm gonna double down, stand 10 toes on business.
Yeah.
Make sure you got a voting plan. Make sure you got a voting plan. Ask your people, do they have a voting plan? Prepare to take people to the polls with you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's number one. I got three. I'm gonna go with three. Okay.
Okay.
Make sure you got that voting plan. And as you said, a B, C, and D,
Mm-hmm.
I won't tell you all about me. But sometimes you can be, your whole day can be running on two wheels where you're running in everything crazy, right?
Right.
Prioritize your voting on that day, right? So you want to make sure
Mm-hmm.
that you're doing that. Kevin, you just spoke about misinformation and how it's at our fingertips, these phones, we got everything. Sometimes we're clicking on something because we think it's funny, right? But there's some misinformation in what you're clicking on and you pass it along, right?
Yeah.
Don't pass it. Don't pass it along because you're giving it life as you're passing it on. Even if you're saying this is messed up, look at what I got from somebody today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do not pass it on because you are increasing the algorithm's methodologies, right? That's like
That's
we got
right.
AI stealth right now, right? So do not,
That's right.
not
Right.
pass it
Keep it
off.
low.
Keep it low. Just whatever. Look at it, go, but do not pass it on.
Right. Good point. Great point.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
The third thing I want to uplift here
Yeah.
is I hope that as we are
Mm-hmm.
watching this election cycle, that we
Mm-hmm.
don't get all caught up in the, oh man, politics is so terrible, politics is so hard, and all of those kinds of stories. What this
Okay.
election cycle is showing us, up and down the ballot, if you're listening and you're watching, anybody can do this who wants to think about things, who wants to contribute, who
There you
wants to
go.
have a thought about things. You know,
Yeah.
I've taught courses on women in politics my whole career, right? And one of the things we know about women in politics in particular, when women
Mm-hmm.
think about careers in politics, they tend to think that, okay, I don't know a whole lot about the political world, right? First of all, you got to ask people, ask people, ask people. So if you've got good people in your life who are smart, critical thinkers, ask them, have they thought about running for public office? Great thing to ask, right? For women in particular, the message that I really want to put out there is that we need more women's voices, women of color voices
Facts.
running for political office, right?
Yep.
Women tend to think, okay, I don't know a whole lot about politics. I got to start at the bottom. I got to run for a local office. Then I got to run for a state office. Then I got to run for another state office because I don't know if I'm ready, all of those things. Cut the crap. You ready?
Yep.
Right? That's all cap, right? That you
That's cap. Right. They capping, right?
But this election has taught us, and what I used to say in my classes, sometimes a football coach can decide that they wake up one morning, I have great ideas and I'm going to run for the U.S. Senate. So I used to use that example in Nebraska because we had Tom Osborne, right, out of Nebraska. Football coach woke up one morning and said, I want to be a politician. And he ran for the U.S. Senate. Come on, right? Because he had the name, right?
Yeah.
Then we can say we've had a U.S. president who has had no public service experience when he ran for office the first time. He said, I got great ideas. Yeah. I'm going to come down an escalator and I'm going to tell the world about my great ideas, right? That changed the nature of the ways in which we have people thinking about readiness to run for public office. Step up. You care about your community. You're invested in your community. Step up and be willing to serve. Run for public office. I especially put that message out there to women of color, to Black women. Black women are changing up and down the
Yes, indeed. Oh, yeah.
The largest numbers of women Black women running for political office. You guys, we got three Senate races. Indiana, Maryland, and Delaware, where Black women are running for the U.S. Senate. Do you know we have only in our history only had 2?
I thought it was 2 so far. Okay. Yep. Which is to this day.
Two in the history of this.
Right.
And we have in this election cycle the opportunity for 3 Black women to show up in the U.S. Senate at the same time. Black women are changing the political game. And so if you have good ideas, if you're that person who can always raise money for causes that you care about, you should be thinking about politics.
I love it. You know what? We've got a lot of different messages, but I love the way you broke that down. Now, the cool part about this is I want people to understand how this show itself is evolving, right? Because a big part of the wrap up of the show last week, right? Joe Clark and the Honorable Judge Terry Jameson basically was saying, hey, if you're frustrated, jump in the game. Yes. Go do it. And the way you just broke it down, though, with some metrics and some numbers around it for people to understand, you too have the ability.
Absolutely.
Some of you are cut for this cloth to go do that. You need to not just think about it. You need to do something about it, all right? So I love it. Thank you for breaking that down, all right? Now, the last and final question I have for you, because you hit your 1, 2, and your 3, so hopefully everybody got that. They got a really good plan, you know what I'm saying, to go do what they need to do. They jump in the game, all that good stuff. Now, I have a question for you. Tonight, right? As we broke down, this is the debate night edition of Countdown to Election Day 2024. What are you looking for or forward to in tonight's debate? Like, what debate? What do you expect to take away from tonight, or would like to take away as a voter, right? And then in this case, I'm gonna say as a woman and as a Black woman as well. Obviously, things are very different and unique, aligned with what you just said. It was a great segue. But for debate night, in such a major election, where there's a contrast, as we know, between one side and the other, but as someone that'll be watching tonight as a voter, what are you looking for tonight in the debate?
Oh, excellent. You know, I've been thinking about this all day long. You know, the lead up, I've been getting text all day. I feel like, you remember when we used to, back in the day, when Sugar Ray Leonard was go fight, or Buster Douglas go fight, had all the hype coming up to the big boxing match.
Big time.
I feel like that's what it feels like. I've been thinking about that this afternoon.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready. There are a few things that I, you know, on a serious note, a few things I'm really listening out for. One, I need these moderators to do their job, because we need moderators. You know, we often talk about the media as the fourth branch, right? So I talked about the three branches of government: Congress, the judiciary, and the presidency. Media, right? We have a free press in this country. We don't have a press where you write something about a candidate that you could be beheaded tomorrow. That's not our democracy. Right?
Right.
We have heard people say that they would love to have a firing squad to just kill the jokers, right? We've heard that has been conversations before, but that's not who we are as a country. So I'm looking for these moderators to give us the debate that we need as American voters. We need to hear policy tonight. We don't need to hear fighting between the candidates, name calling, or what have you.
Golfing numbers and all that. Yeah, we don't know. No,
I don't need to know your handicap. Not tonight. Not tonight.
Right.
I need the business. I need us to understand the policy. You know, one of the things that we're hearing is that one candidate has in a celebratory way said, I haven't prepped for anything. I'm prepared. I walk around prepared. And we have another candidate who has said that they have been doing their homework. They've been studying. They've been thinking very critically about the issues. And those things should matter to us. I'm a women in politics scholar, so I have to say I'm watching body language. I'm watching, you know, there's a wonderful article that appeared in the New York Times this week talking about the ways in which former President Donald Trump has debated women candidates and how he uses how to impose his body and cut them off. And, you know, we had that Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump debate, which kind of, you know, stalked and followed her around. If you were in a employment place, you would have been put on under investigation.
Absolutely.
Right? If you were stalking some woman in your office place like that. I'm watching for those kinds of things because those are tools of intimidation. I'm watching for ways that she is made to look small or have to defend things about her identity or about her character that are beyond the scope of policy and how we handle what we hear. So those are some of the things that I'm looking forward to and listening and watching the body movements and body language. You know, they made a decision that no hot mics, right? So the mics will be muted when you're not speaking, but body language says it all, right? We're good readers of body language. You know, we're quick to say, what you mean? What your shoulders mean? You know, what you feeling? You got a feeling about that. So I'm going to be watching. I'm going to be using my community eyes. To watch reactions. Exactly. I see you right here. I got that. Those are the kinds of things I'm kind of watching for and listening for. I want to hear some policy. I want to hear where we stand on some policy, you know, because we haven't heard, you know, for both sides. I mean, for one side, for former President Trump, he doesn't deal in details. He gives big picture. So I want to hear some detail. For Kamala Harris, we're still, the American public in these days, it's been 6 weeks, are still getting to know her and understand what her policy issues are. I want her to answer some hard questions. This is her chance to explain, you know, what is your record on criminal justice? And I know it, you have to do a lot of reading, but I want our communities to know so we can figure out what are these questions that are still kind of looming in people's head.
That's right.
For the Trump administration, come again on child care. How are we supposed to do this child care thing? You gotta ask who? Your grandmother. My grandmother's at work. What we talking about? We need to ask these questions. We need some specifics, right? We need to know.
That's right. That's right.
Policy. So I'm interested in these policy questions. I'm interested in kind of how you debate, how women show up in debates and in public spaces. And I'm looking for these journalists to give us a good debate. It's in their hands to really make sure we get the answers that we need.
What a big night. You know, I love your setup again. I told you on the last answer how well you did it, but on this one, when you went back to Sugar Ray and Buster Douglas, right, and how everybody's getting ready for those big fights like that, literally, that's exactly how tonight is. And you're going to be watching, we're going to be watching blow for blow to check out every single punch. We want to see, we want to learn, we want to hear, and we're going to dissect every aspect of it, literally like round by round, right? So it's going to be very intriguing tonight. Very.
And I hope you'll next week walk folks through what they heard, because we got to also we got to be clear and honest about what we actually heard versus what the pundits are going to tell us that we heard, right? So we need folks watching. There's all kind of watch parties going on tonight online. About the city. So if you don't want to watch by yourself, you can go on Eventbrite, and there's some watch parties that are happening tonight. But make sure you're thinking about what you actually heard, because there are people who are being paid to tell us what we heard. They already have their scripts in front of them. They got to talk already for tonight, and we haven't even seen the debate, and they already have the talking points. Get past the gotcha, you know. Yes, entertaining to watch politics play out, but don't get caught up in the gotcha where you don't hear all of the dynamics that's happening. Get your facts.
That's right. Get the facts. Pay attention, and then do the fact checking. Pay attention to the fact checking after as well. Okay?
Yes.
There you go. So I like that, because you just helped us to get framed up for next week's show. So I want to invite everybody that watched this show to come back after the debate. We're going to have next week, we actually have some guests from out of town as well that'll be joining us. So different perspectives from other parts of the country. And but I want to make sure something that, you know, I didn't piggyback on it strongly. You mentioned the Senate race here in Ohio, and everybody who's watching, just pay very close attention to that. We in Ohio will play a big role, right, in the national effect with this race, this Senate race. So just make sure you're paying close attention, you're doing your research, your diligence, and that you go vote after creating your plan A, B, C, and D. All right? So listen, Dr. Smooth, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. I just want to say thank you so much. I know you're super busy, but to carve out some time to be able to share your voice in such an important time, I just want to say thank you on behalf of ColumbusBlack.com and the Central Ohio community. Thank you so much. All right.
Thank you so much, Kevin. Thank you for all you are doing to bring good information to our community and help us to connect the dots. I appreciate you, my brother. I really do.
Thank you so much. All right. You have a great evening and enjoy the debate. So listen, y'all, as we, definitely get the popcorn. So, so listen, y'all, I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. Whenever you actually watch the show, we appreciate you. Make sure you go to ColumbusBlack.com to check out this episode, but also prior episodes. If you have not hit the subscribe button or the like button, please do that so you'll be notified when we do these shows in the future. And if you join our free newsletter, right, and mailing list through ColumbusBlack.com, you'll be abreast of all these key things that are going on in Central Ohio. So we appreciate it. And just remember this, y'all. In order to be more successful in your future, you need to understand a little bit more about your past. That's the reason why we just had Dr. Wendy Smooth on the show, and we had a blast. And with that, in my normal way, I'm out. Have a good one, everybody. We appreciate each and every one of y'all. Stay safe out there as well. All right?